They taught you how to count, read, obey. They taught you how to work, consume, repeat, but they never taught you this. You are more than what you've been told, much more. There is a system in place, not just political, not just economic, a spiritual system engineered to distract you from what you really are. From birth, you're taught to trust only what you can see. But the most important parts of life, love, intuition, time, are invisible, and they know that. That's why the real truth isn't on the news, it isn't in the textbooks, it's hidden in plain sight, in symbols, in rituals, in whispers passed through ancient texts and forgotten temples. The first secret is this: you were born awake, but you were trained to sleep. As a child, you questioned everything. You felt things adults ignored. You sensed energy, mood, intention, but slowly you were taught to shut that down. Don't be sensitive. That's just your imagination. Grow up. And so you buried your knowing. You silenced your intuition. You became normal, but the knowing never left. It waited quietly. The world around you, the way it's structured, is not neutral. It's designed to keep you busy, exhausted, and distracted. Why? Because a distracted mind never asks the right questions. Who benefits from a world full of people who don't remember who they are? Who wins when you forget you're divine? You've been told spirituality is a belief, but it's not. It's an experience. And that experience begins the moment you stop looking out there and start turning inward. Inside you, there's a memory, older than your name, older than your body, a memory of being something more than flesh. This is not religion. This is not philosophy. This is remembering. Every civilization that ever touched true knowledge understood this. The human being is a doorway, a portal between the visible and invisible, and that portal was never meant to be closed, but it has been, by noise, by fear, by repetition. You are not here to obey. You are not here to shrink yourself into systems that don't fit your soul. You are here to wake up, and the fact that you're hearing this now means you're already beginning. There's a reason ancient civilizations aligned their temples with the stars. They weren't just honoring the sky, they were mirroring something inside. As above, so below. As within, so without. That phrase isn't poetry, it's a code, a forgotten instruction left by those who remembered. Secret number 2. Your outer world is a reflection of your inner world, and that's not metaphorical, it's mechanical. When you think, feel, and believe something deeply, you generate a frequency. That frequency acts like a signal. It draws to you the experiences, people, and events that match your internal vibration. You're not just reacting to the world, you're helping shape it. And yet, no one teaches this. Instead, you're taught to fear your emotions, ignore your intuition, and numb your instincts. Why? Because a person who truly understands the power of their inner world cannot be controlled from the outside. That's the real threat. They want you stuck in loops. Want, consume, regret, scroll, compare, doubt, chase, achieve, still feel empty. But why do you feel empty? Because you're playing a game that was never designed for your soul to win. Here's the third secret. You are not your thoughts. You are the space between them. They didn't tell you that your mind is programmable, and they've been programming it since birth. Commercials, school bells, social media likes, dopamine loops. Every beep, buzz, and headline is a suggestion, shaping what you think, want, fear, but none of those thoughts are truly you. You are the awareness that notices the thought. You are the stillness behind the noise. And when you start observing rather than identifying with your thoughts, everything changes. You begin to see the system, you begin to see the spell, and suddenly you remember you are not a machine. You are not here to fit in. You are a being of consciousness, capable of tuning into deeper layers of reality that most never even touch. There's more waiting inside you than you've been allowed to believe. And once you start listening, not to the outside world, but to the quiet voice within, you begin to break the spell. That's what they fear most, a population that listens to their soul, because the soul cannot be fooled. Have you ever felt like this world doesn't quite fit you, like you're trying to play a role in a script that was written by someone else? That feeling isn't confusion, it's memory. You're remembering what you were before the noise. Secret number 4, you chose to come here. Why would anyone choose a world filled with pain, illusion, and chaos? Because only in darkness can you remember your light. You came here to grow, to forget and then remember, to transform limitation into freedom. Earth is not just a planet, it's a school, a mirror, a maze designed to stretch your soul. And the greatest lesson, to remember that you are more than human, but the system doesn't want that. It wants good workers, obedient citizens, predictable consumers, not sovereign souls. So it surrounds you with noise, distraction, doubt. It gives you just enough to survive, but never enough to truly awaken. It's time to see that for what it is. The 5th secret is this: you're always connected. You've just forgotten how to listen. Every moment, the universe is speaking to you through signs, dreams, sudden thoughts, intuitive nudges. But most people miss the message. Why? Because they're always looking for logic. But the universe speaks in symbols, in vibration, in feeling. You were taught to think, not to feel, to analyze, not to trust. But your true guidance system has always been within. The body holds more wisdom than the intellect, a gut feeling that saves you, a chill down your spine before something happens, a sudden burst of emotion that says, this isn't for you. Those aren't random, they're the language of the unseen. And when you begin to honor that language, you tap back into the network, the field, the intelligence that connects all things. That's when the coincidences start. That's when the right people show up. That's when the path opens. Because you're no longer blind, you're remembering how to see. And here's the part that flips everything. The more you remember, the less you need to chase. You stop running after the world and start creating from within it. There is a reason why ancient texts, mystics, and sages from every culture warned about the mind, not because the mind is bad, but because it can be hijacked. You think you're thinking your own thoughts, but how many of those thoughts are truly yours? How many are inherited from your parents, your society, your trauma? Secret number 6. The voice in your head isn't always your own. Your mind is like a room. If you don't control who enters it, others will. Every belief you carry becomes a lens, and through that lens you see reality, not as it is, but as you've been programmed to perceive it. This is why 2 people can live in the same world, but experience 2 completely different realities. Because reality isn't just what happens, it's what you perceive is happening, and perception is shaped by belief. Change your beliefs, and the world around you changes with them. But this is dangerous knowledge, because once you realize that beliefs create reality, you stop being controllable. They want you believing you're powerless, that the system is too big, that you're too small, that change is impossible. But that's the illusion. In truth, your beliefs are spells, and you are casting them every single day. I'm not talking about magic wands or fantasy. I'm talking about energy, intention, focus. When you repeatedly affirm something emotionally and mentally, you instruct the quantum field to rearrange itself around that truth. Believe you're not enough, and life will reflect that. Believe you're guided, and the signs will appear. It's not wishful thinking, it's resonance. And the greatest shift happens not when you get what you want, but when you become someone who no longer doubts their place in the universe. You're not lost. You've just been living in a world that profits from your confusion. And now that the fog is lifting, you can start to remember what you really came here to do. Not to survive, not to comply, but to embody something far greater than fear. You came to wake up, and in doing so, remind others of their light, because awakening is contagious. One soul remembering is like a match in a dark room. You don't need to burn down the system. You just need to see it clearly and choose something different. And now that the fog is lifting, you can start to remember what you really came here to do. The final and most hidden secret is one they've tried to erase from every culture, every philosophy, every memory. You are not your body. You are awareness, having an experience through a body, and that awareness does not end. Secret number 7, you are eternal, and death is not the end, only a doorway. This truth is ancient, older than any religion. Whispered in mystery schools, inscribed on stone, buried under modern distraction. And now that the fog is lifting, you can start to remember what you really came here to do. Why is this the most suppressed truth? Because nothing frees a soul more than the realization that it cannot be owned, broken, or destroyed. When you believe you are just flesh, you fear death, and fear makes you obedient. But when you know you are energy, timeless and vast, you stop living small. You stop playing their game, and now that the fog is lifting, you can start to remember what you really came here to do. Death is not a wall, it's a curtain, and you've passed through it more times than you can count. You've worn thousands of faces, loved and lost in many forms, but the one thing that never changed is you, the stillness, the watcher, the spark behind the eyes. What you call you is just one expression of a much larger consciousness, and that consciousness is part of something even greater. When you meditate and time disappears, when you dream and it feels more real than waking, when you meet someone and feel like you've known them forever, that's not coincidence, that's remembrance. They want you to see yourself as an accident, a mistake of evolution, a number in a system. But you are not an accident. You are a note in the universal symphony, vibrating with purpose. And the moment you remember that, you stop playing the role of victim. You become a creator, not because you gain something new, but because you reclaim what was always yours. You begin to live from soul, not fear, from knowing, not needing, and the world begins to bend to your vibration. Because when one soul remembers its truth, it becomes impossible to lie to them again. Now that you've remembered, now what? What does it mean to wake up in a world that still sleeps? What does it mean to know these secrets and still walk among people who have forgotten? It means responsibility, not to save anyone, but to embody what you now know, because truth isn't something you preach, it's something you become. Most people chase awakening like it's an achievement, a state of perfection. But it's not about being better, it's about being real. Real with your energy, real with your pain, real with your power. The first step is presence, to be here, fully, not lost in thoughts of tomorrow, not buried in memories of the past, but breathing now. This is where all power lives, because the mind lives in time, but the soul lives in presence. When you return to this moment, again and again, you begin to dissolve the illusion that time owns you. You stop running, and when you stop running, clarity returns. The second step is awareness, to observe your thoughts like passing clouds, your emotions like weather, to notice without judgment, because you can't change what you're still fighting. You can only transform what you're willing to witness. Awareness doesn't mean escape. It means honesty, seeing what is without needing it to be different. That's where freedom begins. The third step is energy hygiene. Just like you shower your body, you must clear your energy. Every interaction leaves a mark. Every environment carries a charge. And if you're not careful, you carry weights that were never yours to begin with. Cleanse, ground, protect. Whether through meditation, movement, breath, nature, you must keep your channel clear, because a fogged mirror can't reflect light. The fourth step is alignment, to stop asking what should I do and start asking what feels true. Your soul doesn't speak in logic, it speaks in resonance. What expands you is for you, what contracts you isn't. This isn't always comfortable, but it is always honest. And honesty with yourself is the gateway to everything else. The fifth step is embodiment. Take the truths you've remembered and live them, not perfectly, not loudly, but consistently, the way you speak, the way you treat others, the way you care for your body, your mind, your space. These are not small acts, they're spiritual revolutions. Because every awakened choice is a signal to the universe. I remember who I am, and the universe responds. Silence is not empty, it's full of signals, memories, vibrations too subtle for the thinking mind. This is where the real connection lives. The deeper you go, the quieter it becomes, and in that quiet, you don't just find peace, you find the truth beneath all noise. But most people are afraid of silence because in silence there's no distraction, only the self you've been avoiding, the emotions you've suppressed, the questions you don't want to answer. Yet this is the very path home. True spiritual connection doesn't happen through more content, more rituals, more talk. It happens in stillness. When the mind stops chasing, the soul begins whispering, and that whisper, it's the oldest voice you know. It's the voice that guided you long before you had words. The voice that said, "This isn't right," when everyone else clapped. The one that made your skin crawl in places you didn't belong. It never left you, you just stopped trusting it because the world said, "Prove it, back it up, be logical." But logic can only take you so far, and beyond that is knowing, not knowing from books, but from being, a kind of knowing that has no explanation, but needs none, because it lives in your bones. This is the spiritual maturity they never teach, not escaping life, but entering it fully, with open eyes, open heart, and anchored truth. It means sitting with pain without needing to fix it, allowing joy without clinging to it, watching life unfold without trying to control every frame, because the more you try to control, the more you disconnect. Control is the language of fear, surrender is the language of the soul. And no, surrender doesn't mean giving up, it means giving over. Your ego's need for certainty to your soul's capacity for flow. When you start to live this way, everything becomes communication. The body becomes a compass. The moment becomes a message. The unknown becomes an invitation. You stop asking, "What should I do?" and start feeling, "What wants to move through me?" And that's when magic happens. Not fireworks, but alignment. You'll notice you meet the right people at the right time. Doors open with less force. Even your mistakes feel meaningful. Because now you're no longer fighting life, you're in rhythm with it, and the rhythm of life is wisdom in motion. One soul awakening might seem small, but it's not, because consciousness isn't isolated, it's connected. Your inner shifts ripple outward, not metaphorically but literally. Thoughts, emotions, intentions all emit frequencies, and those frequencies influence the field we all share. You've been taught to see yourself as separate, a lone unit in a massive system, but that's an illusion. What you do to yourself, you do to the collective. Every time you break a cycle of fear, you weaken fear's grip on the whole. Every time you choose compassion over reaction, you open that choice for someone else. This is the deeper truth of awakening. It's not about escaping the world. It's about changing your relationship to it. The system wants you angry, wants you hopeless, wants you to believe that nothing you do matters because hopelessness breeds passivity and passivity maintains the status quo. But that's the lie. The truth, you matter more than you think. When you reclaim your inner authority, you stop needing external permission. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, love differently, and people notice even if they can't explain why. They feel safer around you, more honest, more curious, because something in you gives them permission to remember who they are too. You don't need to preach. Your energy speaks louder than your words ever could. This is how the real revolution happens. Quietly, subtly, soul to soul, one awakened presence in a family, in a workplace, in a city can shift the entire dynamic, because light always affects darkness, not by fighting it, but by simply being what it is. Think of every ancient fire that was ever lit. It started with a single spark. You are that spark, not because you're special, but because you're awake. And in a world that runs on sleep, awareness is the most radical act of all. So no, you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to fix everyone. You just need to be real. Realness is rare now, so it carries weight. Your presence is enough. When it's rooted in truth, it becomes medicine for everyone you meet. And the beautiful part is, you'll never fully know how many lives you touch, but the ripple never stops. Now that the secrets are no longer secrets to you, the question becomes, how do you live them? Not in theory, not in moments of meditation or crisis, but daily. In traffic, in conversation, in stillness, in chaos. This is the part most skip, because it's not flashy, it's not dramatic, but it's where the transformation truly happens. Integration, it means letting your inner knowing shape the way you show up, everywhere. It means making choices not from fear, but from awareness, even when no one is watching. Especially then, it's easy to talk about light, harder to embody it when someone pushes your buttons, harder to hold it when life doesn't go your way. But that's where it matters most. The truth is, the world will still test you. You'll still feel doubt, still encounter pain, still lose your balance at times. That doesn't mean you've failed. It means you're human and awake. Awakening doesn't make you untouchable. It makes you more present in what touches you. The gift is that now you know how to return to center. You know how to pause before reacting. You know that you are not the storm, only the witness within it. So you stop needing to win every argument. You stop chasing validation. You stop shrinking your truth to make others comfortable. Instead, you breathe, you respond, you ground, you become a safe place, first for yourself, then for others. This is sacred work. It's not loud, but it's revolutionary, because a world built on urgency, scarcity, and fear has no idea what to do with someone who is deeply rooted in peace. You confuse the system, and eventually, you help transform it. You'll notice the shift, not all at once, but slowly. Like sunlight creeping in after a long storm, you'll attract different people, see synchronicities, feel inner clarity that wasn't there before, not because the outer world changed, but because you did. And from that place, everything recalibrates. You begin to trust life again, not blindly, but deeply, because you felt what happens when you live from alignment. And you'll wonder why no one taught you this earlier, why this truth wasn't in school books, on news feeds, in conversations. But then you'll remember, because you were meant to rediscover it for yourself. That was the point all along.